Hello, I'm going to give a little description of how you can set up PicaSim so that you can fly one of these, learn to fly one of these little planes in PicaSim, the simulator. So this is a Vintage Model Company SE5a that's originally rubber powered balsa and tissue model. I've converted to radio control using a MicroAces little motor and receiver and so on. Flies really nicely. So it's rudder, elevator and throttle control. Okay, so that's the plane. And so in order to fly in PicaSim, I have my transmitter and it's connected to the computer. In this case, I'm using the FrSky Access RSim little USB dongle, which works pretty well, though you don't actually need to use it, it will connect directly. Okay, so in PicaSim, I'm not going to go through the setup of the transmitter itself. And we're going to load up the, so in PicaSim there is a 2 meter, so rather large biplane, Sopwith Pup, sort of pup. It's not really a pup. And we're going to load up the recreation ground here. It's a nice flat area. It's actually not far away from where I live. And we can fly around with this. So this, as I say, this is a 2 meter span plane with big heavy propeller which changes, it's got quite significant gyroscope effects. And so 2 meter span is about 7 kilos in weight. It's kind of quite fun to fly. It's quite sort of nice and sedate. So we want to change this into something which is just 40 centimeters and 55 grams. Okay, so I'm going to go into the settings and I'll show you how you can set things up. So you go into the aeroplane settings first of all, click on advanced, then you can just see, as I said before, whoops, there we are, right down at the bottom, way down at the bottom, even further down at the bottom. Then you can actually see the original settings of this. It's originally 2 meters in span here, and the mass is 6.9 kilograms. So if we go back up here to the top, we can scale down the size. And actually, it happens if you just multiply things out. The most it will scale down with this down to a factor of 0.2, and that comes out as 40 centimeters, which happens to be pretty much exactly the size of the original Boss one. Okay, once we come it down to that size, the new calculated mass is about 55 grams, which is actually pretty much spot on what mine is. I'm going to pretend it's a little bit lighter because if you leave it at the default, it just feels a bit too heavy in the simulator. The next thing in this lot of settings is that if you fly it with this, it's going to feel way overpowered. The engine doesn't really scale completely over the full range. So I'm going to reduce the engine down quite a lot to just over, around about 0.3. So in reality, mine is got a pretty small motor, and it, to be fair, it struggles to gain height actually. It flies around quite nicely as long as you don't want to go up too much. Certainly you can't put the nose just up and just expect to go up. So this is about right. Okay, so let's have a go with that. So there we are. We reset it, place it on the ground, and let's try and take off. Well, unfortunately, you can't take off because partly, there's another little bug in the scaling, and it doesn't scale the friction on the wheels properly. So the wheels end up too sticky, and it just noses over. It's a little bit annoying. So what we're going to do to fix that, we're going to hand launch. So we're going to give it some speed. These are the kind of original, the large size units. We're going to just lift it up. Again, it's not really 10 meters up, it's 10 meters before the scaling. We're going to increase things here, so we can try now. Okay, so that's better position. Oops. There we go. We can fly around. It's a little bit of an ugly sound, but it flies around fine. Okay, so we fly around here. There's a couple of things we want to change further. So firstly, you can see I'm flying around sort of mid-ish throttle. I'm going to need a lot of back elevator all the time. Now I could try moving the center of gravity back, but it just makes the thing really prone to tip stalling. It's really quite unpleasant to fly. So we're going to give it quite a lot of elevator trim. And the next thing is that at the moment I'm flying around with aileron controls most of the time. I mean, it has got rudder. Whoops, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna fix those things. Okay, so we're going to go back in here. We're sorting out with the aeroplane. Go into the controller. Okay, so as I say, the little model I've made, and probably what most people are making, doesn't have any ailerons. It does have rudder, and I would normally control ailerons on the right stick, but actually now I'm going to control rudder on the right stick because this is how I'm going to fly it. So we're going to move this one over here to rudder is picked up from what's normally used to roll the aircraft. Okay, and what else is there? Okay, so we're in here. So what we're gonna do is give it a bit of trim on the pitch. So it needs about minus 0.15 on here. So we go back in here. Let's have another little test fly. Whoops. Okay, so now, whoops. Okay. Okay, so now it flies okay, but it doesn't turn very well. It needs a lot more control input than, well, sorry, just the rudder is just not powerful enough. You can see we've removed the rudder from the left stick, so that doesn't do anything. That's good. Apart from that, it's okay. So we're going to go and change the scaling on that. So we want to increase the don't I miss it? Oh yes, so the roll, what we normally use for roll, we're going to just scale that up to 2. And then one more thing we're going to do is, at the moment it feels like you need, you're constantly needing almost all full throttle in order to get anywhere. So actually going to reduce the exponential on the throttle stick. And I think that's everything we really need to do. So let's have a go. Oops. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now it's got, it's got more, yeah, well, it's got twice as much rudder authority, which is kind of about right, and flies around quite nicely. So yeah, so it doesn't feel exactly like flying the real thing. And in fact, this is, I think, it's probably a little bit harder actually. So this, in the simulator, this plane here, it's got a little bit more tendency to drop a wing. If you drop it back, it has quite a nasty stall. The real balsa plane doesn't have such a nasty stall. I know the real balsa one will spin, and this one will spin really quite hard. Oh, I recovered. Yeah, and so another thing is that you won't be able to do a nice landing because it will nose over, because of that bug I mentioned, because about the friction on the wheels. But apart from that, yeah, hopefully it should be helpful if you're kind of learning to fly. If you want to see what it might be like, it's great. It's great fun to fly the real thing. It's really good. Okay, thanks for listening.